Oh my days, people! As of starting recording this video, we just hit 1,000 subs, and I can't even begin to express how happy I am and how grateful I am to every single one of you who's watching the videos, who has subscribed, who's been supporting me. It genuinely means so much to me, and I did not think we were going to get to 1,000 this quickly. We've gone up over 100 subs in pretty much 2 weeks ever since I've started posting about the stock market and my investment journey, and the support is honestly overwhelming. It's absolutely crazy, and I'm genuinely just so appreciative of each and every one of you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And if you're new around here, if you're still not sub, please do smash that sub button, man. We want to keep this going. Smash the like button if you want to see more videos. But again, just thank you all so much. And look, let's just get straight into the video. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be comparing two stocks against each other. We're going to be comparing Coca-Cola against Pepsi. We know both of these companies, we know who they are and what they do, but which one, if you could only choose one, is the best stock to add to your portfolio? And that is a really tough question. I think the most important thing to understand before we get into this is that they are much more than just the Coca-Cola beverage and the Pepsi beverage. Both of these companies are massive and own loads of different companies. And that's going to be the most important thing, the most important differentiation when it comes to choosing if you could only invest in one, which one you will invest in. And I want to make it clear as well, I'm actually invested in both of these companies, so I think they're both absolutely incredible companies, and it's going to be so hard to come to a decision on which one I would buy if I had to only have one. So we're going to start it off with a few really straightforward comparisons. So now I'm nice and small up in the corner again, and we're on Simply Safe Dividends having a quick look at Coca-Cola. There's just three things I want to look at. So number one, their dividend safety score, which is currently at 80. Their current dividend yield, which is at 3.83%, which is awesome. And then how long they've been growing their dividend, which is 57 plus years, making them a dividend king, which is an absolutely incredible start. And now we're going to go straight over to Pepsi, do the same thing. So we actually have a better dividend safety of 93, a slightly lower dividend yield of 3.17%, and they have been growing their dividend for 47 years, so they're 3 years away from being a dividend king as well. So both of these companies look excellent straight off the bat. We can see they both have a dividend safety over 80, a dividend yield over 3%, and they're both paying dividends for 47 plus years. So off the bat, it's an excellent start for both of these companies. No real information yet on which one's better. So the next thing we're going to have a quick look at is both of their PE ratios. So we're back on Coca-Cola. Okay, they have a forward PE ratio of 19.2, which is below its 5-year average of 22.5. In other words, the stock looks cheap compared to how the market has valued it in recent years. However, their forward PE ratio of 19.2 is still well above the consumer staple sector average of 16.5. Now we're having a look at Pepsi, and we can see that their forward PE ratio is 20.5, which is quite close to its 5-year average of 21.3, which means the market appears to be valuing the stock similar to how it does in the past, suggesting that it could be fairly priced if you believe its long-term prospects remain solid. And again, the consumer staples sector average is 16.5, so that applies to both of these companies. So right now, what we can see from the PE ratios and the forward PE ratios is that Pepsi looks fairly valued and Coca-Cola could perhaps be undervalued. And we'll look at this a little bit later on when we actually go on to their individual stock charts, and we'll see how they've been hit as of late, if they've been hit harder than the other, and things along those lines. So I've just pulled up a cheeky little Google Sheets chart that I have prepared earlier just to get rid of some of the less useful information and put the more useful stuff into place. All of these numbers are as of December 2019, and we're just going to be comparing a few key stats in Coca-Cola against Pepsi. So total revenue, Coke 37,266 million and Pepsi 67.16 billion. So straight away we can actually see that Pepsi is a much bigger company than Coca-Cola, which will surprise a few people. When you just think about their beverage, the Coke beverage versus the Pepsi beverage, you obviously think Coke's bigger, but Pepsi obviously has a lot more going on if they can have this amount of a total revenue. Now the cost of revenue, Coca-Cola 14.6 billion and Pepsi 29.9 billion, leaving a gross profit of 22.6 billion for Coke and 37.1 billion for Pepsi. So again, we can see that Pepsi are actually making a lot more money than Coke. But now obviously that is not enough information. So operating expenses for Coca-Cola 12 billion and Pepsi a massive 26.4 billion. And they actually both have a very similar operating income. Coca-Cola 10.6 and Pepsi 10.7. Now next up, something that's really important to look at because of the situation we're in right now with the virus, okay? Current assets, Coca-Cola 20.4 billion and Pepsi 17.6 billion. So Coke actually have more current assets on hand. Long-term assets for Coke 65.9 billion, Pepsi 60.9 billion. So again, Coke are winning on the assets. So total assets for Coke 86.3 billion and Pepsi 78.5 billion. Now let's compare that to our liabilities. Current liabilities of 26.9 billion for Coke and only 20.4 billion for Pepsi, so that's good. Long-term liabilities of 38.3 billion for Coke and 43.2 billion for Pepsi, leaving them with total liabilities of 65.2 billion for Coke and 63.6 billion. So again, we're in fairly similar situations here, assets wise versus liabilities wise. In the short term, Pepsi is looking ever so slightly better than Coke ratio wise, but it's very much so in the same boat here. And then that leaves them with a net income. Coca-Cola have 8.9 billion and Pepsi have 7.3 billion. So Coke are actually winning on the net income front. So while we're speaking about assets, liabilities, debt and all those things, I want to have a quick look at each company's net debt to EBITDA. Below 4 is the preference for consumer staples, and we can see that Coca-Cola as of the last 12 months was at 2.73 and projected is 2.82. So they're well below where it should be. And then if we have a look at Pepsi, things are looking even better. The last 12 months 2.2 and the next 12 months 2. So from a debt point of view, Pepsi is looking a little bit better than Coca-Cola. This means that in the short term, we can expect Pepsi to potentially struggle less against Coca-Cola. So now I want to see how each company actually handles their money and how they make their money make them more money. So we can see the return on equity, that's how many dollars of profit a company earns for every dollar shareholders have invested. And the return on invested capital, that divides a firm's profits by money both equity and debt holders have given the company to gauge management's capital's allocation scheme. But anyway, we're looking at Coke. The return on equity is nice, it's at 45%, and the return on invested capital is also nice, it's at 16%. And we go over the Pepsi, and it's even better again. The return on equity is currently at 50% and return on invested capital is at 20%. So Pepsi is looking better with how they manage their money as a whole. Now, what makes these companies different to each other? So we're having a look at Coca-Cola, right? 130 plus years of refreshing the world, 200 plus countries offer their products, 500 plus brands worldwide, and 800 plus drink varieties in the US. Now, let's just see the brands they own: Coca-Cola, Sprite, Fanta, Minute Maid, Smartwater, Dasani, Innocent, a new one, Costa. There's loads. But the main thing here is they're all drinks. Okay, so Coca-Cola pretty much only sells beverages. Their brands only consist of beverages. So they sell loads of different kinds of beverages, like obviously their standard Coca-Cola. Now they are in Costa Coffee, their Powerade, their energy drinks, everything along those lines, but it is only beverages. And this is where Pepsi perhaps takes a fairly massive edge. Now we're having a look at Pepsi's $22 billion brands. Pepsi's 22 brands with over 1 billion in sales in the last 12 months. Obviously there's Pepsi, but then there are foods. So there's Lay's, they have Starbucks, they have Ruffles, they have Quaker Oats, Cheetos. So they have more than just beverages, whereas Coca-Cola pretty much only has beverages. This is what stands them out slightly. Like, you know nearly every single one of these brands. You have Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Mountain Dew, 7-Up, Gatorade, Tropicana. Some of these I don't know because I'm not from, obviously, the US, but then we have Lay's, Walkers, Doritos, Ruffles, Fritos, Cheetos. They've so many massive companies that everybody knows, and they're more diversified than Coca-Cola because of this, which is a positive. It's 1.2 Pepsi. So both are trying to gain a competitive edge by diversifying. Pepsi has gone down the route of food, you know what I mean? They have snacks, they don't only have drinks. One massive thing for Coca-Cola is the fact that they recently bought Costa, so they're trying to get into the coffee market, one place that Pepsi isn't. So they are both diversified, they are both in certain markets that the other isn't in, but in my opinion, Pepsi is the much more diversified company. So I think that now is a pretty good time to say that both companies look very good. They both look very promising, they're not going anywhere, they are going to survive, they won't get hit as hard as a lot of other companies will, no matter what happens next in the economy. So which one is better? Well, let's just have a look at both of their charts. We're going to start off on the 1-month chart, and we can see that Pepsi is down 11.75% and Coca-Cola is actually down 22%. Now we're just going to have a look at the 3-month chart. So we can see again Pepsi is down 12.5%, Coca-Cola is down 22.6%. We're having a look at the 5-year chart, so we're looking at Pepsi right now, and we can see that they have a 5-year change of 25.43%, and Coca-Cola have a 5-year change of plus 6.89%. So Coca-Cola has been hit a lot worse and hasn't performed near as well as Pepsi. But is that necessarily a bad thing for us long-term investors? Our job as long-term investors is to get into really good companies at really good prices. And Coca-Cola right now is looking like it's at a better price than Pepsi. If we believe in both of these companies, and we believe that they'll both do pretty much as well as each other, given the fact that Coca-Cola has been hit harder and they have a way cheaper stock right now at 42.84 as opposed to Pepsi's 120.35, it could be giving us an amazing position to get into for some really good long-term growth, and they both offer fairly similar dividends, even though Coca-Cola's is slightly better. So I am invested in both of these companies, but I do want to expand my investment in both of these companies, and what I'm going to be keeping a close eye on is which one gets hit the hardest, because I think ultimately they'll both rebound quite as well. Pepsi obviously does have a better track record. They have a better track record of growth overall over the last 5 years, but they both still have insane growth potential. And since I believe so heavily in both of them, I just want to get into whichever one I can get in cheaper, whichever one I can get at a more discounted price, because that's what's ultimately going to give me the best return in the years and decades to come. It's like what we say, you want to buy low and you want to sell high. So if one gives us a better opportunity to buy low, that could literally be the differentiator, the one factor that gives one an edge over taking my money than the other. Because in my opinion, they're both on pretty much the exact same level. I want to be in both of them, that's why I am. but which one I get a little bit more aggressive with will depend on which one's the cheapest. But with that being said, I do think I ultimately prefer Pepsi. They've just shown more consistent growth than Coca-Cola have. They have a really similar dividend and they're more diversified. But it is neck and neck. I think they're both absolutely incredible companies. Which one would you buy? If you had to only buy one, drop me a comment, because I don't know, I think mine's Pepsi. It's so hard to tell, man. They're both just amazing. So guys, I do hope that you enjoyed that video. I know it may not have given you the most clarity in the world, but that is because in my opinion these companies are neck and neck. And again, I'm not a financial advisor, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Always do your own research on these companies. And again, I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on both of these companies in the comments, so do drop me one, let me know what you think the better one is, or if there's anything that I didn't point out in this video that you think is important. Aside from that guys, just one more time, thank you all so much for the support lately. I genuinely can't believe we've broken 1,000 subs already. Drop the video a like if you haven't yet, subscribe if you haven't yet, and strap yourself in. It's going to be a crazy ride. But anyway guys, until the next one, peace.